The Todd Shapiro Show.
Time to hit the button!
On Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
Okay, here we go. Always looking forward to these chats. Everyone seems to be talking about the cannabis space daily. It comes up in lunchtime conversations, during afternoon conversations, comes up at dinner table conversations. It comes up at night a lot too. And here to keep you informed from Namaste Technologies and namastetechnologies.com is the one and only Darren Gill. Hi, Darren.
Hey, how's it going, bud?
I'm good, man. Darren, a very bright guy within the industry. What is your Instagram handle, Darren?
Instagram handle. Great question.
Because I'm looking it up as I talk to you to post it.
I think the only thing on my Instagram is my dog or my children.
Okay, so I'll just put Darren Gill from Namaste Technologies. Are you at... Yeah, there you are. So you're at Namaste Technologies is the Instagram handle. How are things?
Good. Been a beautiful sunny day here in Vancouver, so where sun is shining and birds are chirping. Life is good today.
How's everything going at Namaste Technologies?
Things have been going really well. We just filed our Q2 financials today. I think they just came out a little while ago, so things are starting to look, stabilize and start to go in the right direction. We've been hard at work, announced a recent partnership with a technology platform called Arbor, which is a clinician-facing tool to help medical professionals or pharmacists actually help patients, with recommendations when they come in, have questions and concerns. It's a way for them to log symptoms, get an understanding of what the patient's needs are, previous medical history, and make a recommendation. And through that partnership, they'll actually be able to link right into Namaste MD tool, where we'll be able to help guide them through getting a medical document and hopefully over to Canmart, where they can shop from the widest selection in the industry today.
So, Darren, one of the things I was sort of trying to figure out if there's statistics on, because there's the double way of getting cannabis. Well, triple really. One is the black market, which we strongly discourage, and then there is the legal, licensed producers, and you go through the OCS or the stores now that are out there, and then there's still the medical route. And I understand it. You have a Namaste MD. Are the numbers in the medical route since legalization decreasing in terms of the percentages of people getting it that way? Or are we still seeing, for medical purposes, people trying to understand how cannabis can help them?
I think you're seeing what I would call a leveling off period here is once we've opened it up to recreational, where companies were reporting consistently high percentage growth on the medical side, you've seen some level of stabilization, and I think now what you're seeing is you're going to start to see a consolidation or a shift of these folks. Of you get used to being able to go into a retail shop and browse through a selection of multiple LPs products. Where today in medical, when you're shopping, most folks are doing a direct registration approach, where they're registering with one LP, and that's really all the product you wind up having access to. And I think that's one of the unique places that Canmart's actively trying to differentiate itself, is having offering that same retail-like experience for medical, where when you come to us, you don't just get one LP's product, but you get a whole host of products. You can buy your accessories. You can buy, very, very soon you'll be able to buy little treats for your pets that are hemp-based. And we're continuing every day to work on what's the added assortment we can offer, just to create a bit more of that recreational feel experience, even when you're shopping for medical.
Very interesting, Darren. And what's something new you would have learned this week as the ever evolving industry?
That fake walls in buildings are very bad.
I heard about that. A company called CanTrust, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's unfortunate what's going on.
No, let's talk about that, because full disclosure, dude, I think you know something about me, is I like to invest and dabble in a lot of different pot stocks, and I had a little bit of money, not a lot, in CanTrust, is the God's honest truth. I heard of the report. I didn't sell it quick enough, but I did sell it. Lost a significant amount of my investment on that one. And I'll tell you, as a shareholder, I'm rarely upset as a shareholder if a stock goes down, because I was always accountable to push buy, doing due diligence, and hitting that order and buying a stock. So the accountability, in my opinion, as a shareholder is really always on me. In this case, I was peeved, because really what they did was something illegal. And at least in my opinion, from what I understand of the story, growing unlicensed cannabis and then shipping it overseas. I think I saw to Denmark or whatever. Yeah. And not to sit here and go and crap and poo-poo on other, cannabis companies. I think the industry sort of all feels like they're in this together and wants all ships to sail on the same tide, which is high and rising well. But, in this case, this has got to given sort of like a pretty big bruise on like the reputation of the industry.
No, I think you see it in the general markets, especially when the news came out. Everybody got hammered pretty hard for it. But I would chalk some of this up to the fact that this is a still maturing industry. I think people were flying, especially in the early days, fast and loose to try to get things to happen and, capture that lion's share of the market and be the first guy international. And I think what you'll notice as the industry evolves, and especially as you cross this chasm towards being the guys that were startup entrepreneurial to the leadership will either evolve, or you'll see leadership come into a lot of these organizations to make them more professionalized companies and start running like businesses. You're going to see that shift and focus in towards putting in place a lot more rigor, process, and controls, and not just doing what you need to be dominant in the space, but to really be able to survive the longevity of any industry. And I think that's where unfortunately, some folks may have been misguided early on, in scaling quicker is better than maybe dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
What will Health Canada do, though, in response, do you think, to CanMart, and then to sort of all LPs in terms of monitoring and inspecting? And do you think that will sort of they'll up that up a little bit?
This obviously, unfortunately, isn't the first time we've seen something like this in this industry.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay.
Maybe this particular situation, but we've had LPs caught with black market product. We've seen other situations, where facilities have been non-compliant and gotten slapped for it. Some as extreme as having their license pulled. I think this starts to put more and more LPs and companies on notice that this stuff's not going to be tolerated. And typically, at least following something like this, you'll typically see Health Canada crack down, do some surprise inspections on facilities. And I know we've been through it ourselves and got through that okay. Where one day they knock on the door and say, okay, you're being audited. I think if you run a clean operation, and again you focus on long-term sustainable growth, you got to be in this for the long game and do things the right way rather than the quick way.
Yeah, Darren Gill, I get that, and it is about doing things the right way, without a doubt. I'm sorry, I don't want to get off this topic right away, because I just think that it is, I don't know. I don't know what your relationship is with that company, but I just look at it as like it's illegal marijuana at that point. So what difference what kind of fine do you think they'd be facing?
Look, I don't want to speculate on what's going to happen
okay.
with Health Canada and kind of, folks situation over there. But I can tell you, the extreme version here is outside of fines. It's fundamentally, you're losing your license. Your entire team's getting shaken up. I think I saw a BNN article now where they're potentially even looking at putting the company into play, from a transaction perspective. So, unfortunately, shareholders suffer as a result, and what I would consider great companies wind up falling pretty quick.
I think that's a well put statement for you. So what's next then for Namaste Technologies?
I mean, I think, next for us is, we've got the next quarter ahead of us, continue to focus on our technology, on patient acquisition, and continue to sustainably grow the company into the future where, we can become a predominant player, where we've been continuing to, focus on growth and focus on increasing partnerships and adding product to the portfolio. And I think, similar to where we started this conversation was, if you can offer folks that one-stop shop experience where they have product selection, diversity, and you make it where they really don't need to go anywhere else, then, I think it begs the question, why would they?
I spoke to an individual who does a lot of PR kind of in the space, and one of the things he was saying earlier this week on the show was how really alive and well the black market still is. Does that surprise you?
Honestly, not really, because I think, you've seen from a regulatory perspective, at least, being out here on the West Coast, things have started to happen from a brick and mortar perspective. Guys are getting slapped on the wrist. Some guys are smartening up and willingly shutting down their dispensaries. But, especially from a Namaste perspective, where we focus on e-commerce, the e-commerce black market really hasn't been touched. And, I think that's one of those, regulatory things that, the next iteration of the crackdown here is really going to have to be on these online dispensaries that are operating illegally.
Yeah, and do you think there's police or organizations are doing enough for the black market to control that?
Right now, I don't think they're really paying much attention to it, and I think part of it is, again, I think you and I have touched on this before, where there's this fear of backlash of today we don't offer that full product assortment. These guys can literally through apps like WhatsApp order anything they would want, be it hashes, rosins, vape pens, cartridges, right to their door. And without having any legal means of getting that stuff today, for them to crack down on it and start to shut that stuff down, I think would put them in a bad public relations issue.
On the technology side of things, and it is something we've sort of touched on a little bit before in the past, Darren Gill is on the phone with us in Vancouver. There's this sort of trend going on this week. I'm sure you saw it for this Face app, which aged you. Did you see this thing?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. It was a very viral story. Pretty much every influencer and every individual with Instagram would take a picture of themselves on a Face app, it's called, and it would age you like 40 or 50 years. So it's what you would look like in the future, and kind of very comical and stuff. And really, at the end of the day, though, what people started figuring out was it was a Russian company, and when you agreed, not saying like this is about a Russian thing, it's just a fact, it was a Russian company, that when you agreed to all their terms and stuff, it actually could take all your information and do in the terms itself. It talked about that it could take every single one of your photos and have ownership of them in perpetuity and do whatever they want with them based on the that's what people sign off on, the privacy. I know that Namaste is so protective of their data. Does it frustrate you on the tech side to hear that so many companies don't care about the people that use them?
No, absolutely, and I think that's where that's the redefined print loophole. But Namaste, themselves, we've had an issue with a data breach that we publicly came out and acknowledged, and we took steps immediately to deal with it because we understand the seriousness of patient privacy and data protection, and we were able to get that situation handled very, very effectively, communicate to the folks that were affected, and make sure, fortunately for us, nothing, no serious data was compromised other than a few email addresses. But, we're taking steps every day, reviewing our processes, reviewing our controls, working with third-party agencies to make sure that we're keeping our customers and our patients' data protected.
Darren Gill's on the phone. Yeah, how's it's funny, I never really asked this. How is it that people go and get their cannabis in Vancouver? I don't even know, in British Columbia.
Well, BC, we've got a few private retailers. There's, I believe, still only one or two government stores up out in Kamloops there. And then we've got our online government-run bccannabisstores.com as well. And then short of that, unfortunately, the black market still is very, very rampant here.
Is that surprising to you that there aren't more stores to meet the demand?
Yeah, I mean, I think the demand for the products that aren't available right now is fundamentally the issue that's still causing folks to shop through other channels.
Darren, I didn't realize that when you said you actually released your second quarter results, I thought you were just saying that there was going to be a date that you released them. Were you pleased with the revenues of the company?
Yeah, I mean, I think, given where we've been this year and kind of where we've come, the fact that we've been able to hold stable on a lot of fronts and, show consistency and maintaining kind of where the business has been at. And, I think it's fairly public that we've exited a few markets. We've done some restructuring internally. It speaks volumes to the fact that we haven't suffered a decline because of that.
And what is it? From what I understand, you're a pretty cash positive company. Is that fact?
From a cash balance perspective, I mean, much like any company that's investing to try to grow, we're definitely, in EBITDA loss and the loss on the bottom line right now. But this isn't, it's not the gross negligent losses I think you see or people have come to expect from the cannabis industry. I think it's well-placed investments and, taking some bets on some ventures that hopefully wind up panning out for us to drive that shareholder value.
What does Andrew Buckman do with Namaste Technology? He's a name from the past for me.
I'll be honest, that's probably before my time as well.
Okay, no, he's on the advisory board right now.
Oh, sorry, Andrew. So he's primarily advisory for our CEO, interim CEO Many, and is working to help Many work through rebuilding organization, getting organizational alignment, and so on.
Excellent. Are you guys still expanding in job growth and stuff?
Absolutely. There's job postings going up. We're working with recruiters. We're trying to get the right team and talent in place.
Still plans for a Toronto office?
Well, we currently are in Toronto. Actually, we work downtown, just on University.
No, like a storefront or something.
Oh, a storefront. Well, I mean, being an e-commerce company, I don't think we would want to get into brick and mortar. But we're definitely a internet connection away from serving anybody. Wow,
that's awesome. What about expanding worldwide?
We've got an open term sheet for a UK entity that we've been working to close the deal on. We're hoping we can get that moving along, and we've got a few other interesting initiatives that we're going to continue to evaluate. We like any company in the cannabis space are always looking for international opportunities and kind of where the next big splash is going to be. So those opportunities are being evaluated on a daily basis.
Any bets as to where that next great opportunity might be? Are we talking America yet?
It'll be in the form of a press release.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing another press release. Always nice to catch up with you, Darren, and to get an update within the space. Constantly moving, constantly growing, constantly evolving. As investors, I think I always encourage and implore them to say, hey, just make sure you look at the companies that you think are going to have a lot of long-term growth. And I'm just such a supporter of yours and Many's vision. And look forward to more positive news from Namaste Technologies.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, Darren. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Darren Gill, everybody.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.